The year is starting off slowly, and since there aren't any exciting new releases yet, I decided to take this opportunity to finally clear out my backlog. While browsing my GOG library, I stumbled upon The Beast Inside. Funny enough, I have absolutely no idea of when or how I got this game. Looking at the cover and the title, I thought to myself, well, tonight's the night, why not? And installed it.
Tonight the night? Why not?
The story kicks off strong, with some guy in the basement gently stroking his tools. A woman is screaming in the background, a man's head is lying on the table, and we quickly realize that this is definitely not a Stardew Valley clone. After the killer swings an axe at her, as if she were Paul Allen's sister, the screen fades to black, and we're thrown a week into the past. We learn that it's the late 70s, the Cold War is in full swing. The Bee Gees are tearing up America's dance floors with disco, and a married couple consisting of the aforementioned woman, sporting a rather eye-catching neckline, named Emma, and her nervous husband, Adam, are heading to the middle of nowhere. Adam works for the CIA, cracking Soviet codes, and they've decided to move out there so he can work in peace while Emma prepares to give birth. Upon arrival, we are immediately sent to lug boxes around, serving as a quick tutorial for the controls. I like that Adam uses a tape recorder as his journal. First of all, tape recorders are cool. Agent Cooper used one, and I even went through a brief phase where I carried one in my pocket in case a genius thought popped in my head. It never became a habit though, and the only thing I ever recorded were my tone-deaf attempts at singing Journey songs and an idea of crossbred a cheetah with a leopard and called a shepherd. Here observant players will immediately notice similarities to the Amnesia series. You interact with the environment by opening doors, drawers and manipulating objects using mouse movements. One thing that stood out to me though is that when you pick up an item, you can't just put it back down. You can either examine it and rotate it or throw it. Imagine if in real life, once you picked something up, the only way to let go was to hurl it across the room.
How loud it gets on that one! You don't...
After removing just 1 out of 5 boxes, yes I counted, Adam decided that's enough and it's time to start painting the walls. Dragging himself up to the attic for the paint, our obsessive-compulsive protagonist immediately forgets about the walls and instead gets fixated on a creaky floorboard. Naturally, he pries it up, as one does, and discovers a safe containing the diary of a certain Nicholas.
What could it be? A treasure? Hope it's not great-grandpa's porn mags.
Reading the diary transports us back to the 19th century, where we now play as its author. Returning home after a 10-year absence, incidentally to the very same house Adam and his wife just moved into, Nicholas finds it in a state of decay. He sets out to uncover what happened to his father, and more importantly, to himself. Because, what a shocker, Nicholas has amnesia. And that's pretty amusing, because the very first objective we get while playing as Nicholas is to light candles around the house using matches. One of the first items we find, a lamp that requires oil to function. So yeah, it's fair to say that the first hour of gameplay is basically Amnesia running on Unreal Engine. But honestly, it's not bad. I like how The Beast Inside plays with contrast, starting with a bright and somewhat carefree prologue as Adam, before yanking us into much darker territory without warning. The same house is now shrouded in shadows, the moon hangs overhead, floorboards creak underfoot, and shutters slam open with each gust of wind. And even though, let's be real, this is a pretty overused setup, I still felt a creeping sense of unease settle over me, especially when a ghostly, creepy figure appeared outside the window, silently pointing the way forward.
Hey, what are you doing here? This is private property. Who the devil is he?
By the end of the chapter, the tension ramps up. A series of eerie events unfold, accompanied by a handful of predictable but occasionally effective jump scares, and just when you start wondering whether the house is actually haunted or if Nicholas is losing his mind, you come face to face with aforementioned intruder. That's where the chapter ends, and we switch back to Adam. From this point on, the game alternates between characters, Nicholas' nighttime survival horror sections and Adam's daytime puzzle solving. The daytime segments of course aren't as terrifying, but they still have their unsettling moments. For example, Adam's wife, with her vacant facial expression and bizarre dialogue.
Jesus, woman. You want me to have a heart attack?
Cool, huh? Wonder if some magician used to live here.
Or the part where the game forces you to paint the wall with a dry roller. At some point again, thanks to Emma's prompting, Adam starts to notice that something strange is happening around them. The electricity suddenly cuts out, a bloodied shirt turns up in the shed. Slowly, paranoia begins to creep in, and he starts to feel like they're not alone in these woods. Armed with quantum localizer, a device capable of identifying silhouettes of people or other living organisms whose past presence in a given fragment of the space-time continuum has left behind detectable clusters of waves and particles, also known as Detective Mode in Batman or Witcher Senses in Witcher, and a dozen other things in other games, you start tracking a mysterious stranger throughout the surrounding forests while shooting down anomalies that interfere with the device. Jokes aside, I actually like the localizer's design. At the end of the day, yes, it's basically the Outlast camera, just with the added ability to show you which direction to go. You just can't go wrong with making the player wander through a forest, staring intently at a static filled green and black screen. Besides the localizer, we also navigate using completely in-your-face markers, like red ladders, white crates and fences. The game does everything it can to make sure you don't get lost. Some players don't mind this kind of a design, while others find it annoying. All I'll say, get used to it, because this color-coded guidance will follow you all the way to the end. Another outdated gameplay mechanic, probably carried over straight from the Cold War, is quick time events, which are generously and often illogically sprinkled throughout the game. For example, during a mine chase sequence, you have to hit the right buttons in time to grab onto a ledge. Here the QTE makes sense, it's literally a quick time event. But then there's another moment when the game makes you complete a QTE to dig around in dead deer's guts. Just why? Also, sound effects in this scene always cracks me up.
Whoopah!
Arguably the strongest part of Adam's gameplay is the puzzle solving. The puzzles are quite interesting and varied. I often find myself jotting down notes in a notebook to find out the solutions. For me, they strike the perfect balance, challenging enough to make you think, but still logical and solvable without feeling unfair. While Adam's gameplay remains fairly consistent, Nicholas' chapters change dramatically from one to the next. After a strong opening and an equally solid start to the next chapter, Nicholas' campaign suddenly turns into a shooter. And I'm not joking.
Just in case. I'd rather not kill anyone.
At one point you start searching for a judge, your protagonist's father's former business partner. He's wounded and presumably looking for help, which Nicholas, now armed with a revolver, is determined to provide. We track him through the dark forest, following glowing blood trails, as if he's not an old man in a wig but a unicorn from Harry Potter. Unfortunately, we do find the judge. He's not exactly friendly and immediately starts lunging at us from the bushes with a machete. Our only option, shoot back. So for the rest of the level, we're gunning down these creepy ghosts, as if the game suddenly got tired of pretending to be Amnesia and decided to cosplay as Alan Wake instead. Even the way we interact with objects completely changes. Previously you had to click on oil or any other item to pick it up, but now just step near it and it magnetically flies into your inventory. And the surprises don't stop there. The final boss fight of the level absolutely floored me. First of all, it's a full-on arena-style shootout, where you have to strafe away from the fireballs, dodge AoE attacks, and relentlessly pump the judge full of lead. Second, this boss even has a second phase, where he becomes stronger and can one-shot you. At this point you have no idea what to expect from the game anymore. I'll just say that while you won't be allowed to shoot anything again, the weird boss segments aren't going anywhere. Eventually we return to a more classic horror experience, exploring locations like an abandoned hotel and deep mines. However, by this point the sense of tension and fear is completely gone. At first I thought the revolver shootout had killed the atmosphere, but then I noticed something else: the lighting. You are never left in complete darkness again. The lighting might be dim, but it's always just bright enough to navigate without any issues. And it's not just about gamma settings, I even tried lowering them. The problem lies in the weird light sources. For example, while wandering through rocky tunnels in the mines, I realized that the rocks themselves seemed to glow. Meanwhile, in some of Adam's segments, parts of the map had zero lighting. This not only kills any tension the game might have had, but it also renders your lantern and matches completely useless. Seriously, just look at how many matches and how much oil I had stocked up by the end of the game. Yet another identity the Beast Inside tries to adopt is Resident Evil. And I'm not even talking about the overworked bolt cutters that seem to be a staple in every horror game these days. I'm talking about the swamp level. Here we sneak through Maria's house, a woman who supposedly knows something about Nicholas and his father. The entire section where we're searching for notes while Maria's ghost hunts us down feels eerily similar to the stealth segments in Resident Evil 7, where Ethan hides from Marguerite in the old house. And yes, this section also has stealth.
Why are you the way that you are? Honestly, every time I try to do something fun or exciting, you make it not that way.
And look, I love stealth in the stealth games. If stealth isn't your game core mechanic, please don't make it mandatory. For the love of games, it's so frustrating. Especially when the enemies have ridiculously good vision. With Maria, if even a pixel of your character's backside peeks out from cover, she immediately spots you, sprints at you, and you guessed it, insta-kills you. Oh, and one more thing I absolutely didn't expect in this game: a lock-picking mechanic straight out of Oblivion. I have no idea how, why, or what it's doing here, but thankfully it works well enough and isn't too annoying.
Stop right there, criminal scum! Nobody breaks the law on my watch!
All my complaints come from the fact that these constant shifts between different gameplay features, all these ideas borrowed from various games, end up doing a disservice to the Beast Inside. At its core there is an interesting story. Yes, it can be predictable at times, but even when you think you know what's coming next, the game still manages to surprise you. I really enjoyed the voice acting. The characters sound natural, emotional and human, which strengthens the game's overall narrative. And all of this is wonderfully complemented by an excellent soundtrack. Ironically, the Beast Inside tries to wear several masks at once. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite manage to pull them all off. Despite that, I ended up liking the game more than I expected. The story was engaging enough to hold my attention for the full 8 hours it took to complete. The dynamic switching between characters and the alternation between horror adventure and puzzle solving also played a big role in keeping things interesting. The Beast Inside is a tough game to recommend, but I'm glad I gave it a chance. So do yourself a favor, pick a random game from your library and just play it. Don't overthink it, don't spend hours deciding, just grab the first thing that catches your eye and give it a shot. Maybe you won't like it, maybe you'll find your new favorite game, or maybe you'll come across a small but intriguing experience that you'll want to talk about on your own little YouTube channel. Let me know in the comments, do you have a story about unexpectedly discovering a hidden gem in your gaming backlog? And as always, I appreciate you being here with me. This was Radio Nick. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like or subscribe, it really means a lot to me. That's all for now, see you next time.
For God's sake.